everyone to this 5th Alumni Get Together with Samir Fostock. We're very happy to have you here.
Thank you very much.
We are going to start with a little throwback with Marissa. She's going to tell us what's been happening at the school lately. And then we're going to come back to Samir. We're going to have an interview, and then we're going to have a Q&A session. So thank you everyone for joining. Let me just share my screen. Here we go. So can everyone see this? Perfect. Marissa?
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Samir, for joining us today. We really appreciate you took your time and visiting Stockholm to spend some time with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to have you back at SIS. My name is Marisa Leon. For those who don't know me, I am the school's director. I'm here in my 4th year as a director, and we are celebrating our 70th anniversary. So very excited about that. And we'll be doing lots of little, small, big, and medium-sized and big events throughout the year to celebrate our 70 years of impact, 1951 to 2022. Next slide. So a little bit about us, founded in 1951, we're non-for-profit. We are now at 763 students, so we accepted almost 100 new students this year because we were able to expand. About 62 nationalities represented in our student body. We're at 187 staff, and we do have 4 locations now. The main building, Annex B and C, and Olof Palmsgata is our new part of our new urban campus for our diploma students. And these are all the organizations that we are accredited by. Next. So that you get a sense of the location, main building, the 2 annexes, and OPG, about a 10-minute walk between OPG and our main building. A little bit about our achievement of the class of 2021 in terms of our IB results. So we've been doing very well. This particular year, of course, we were way above the IB diploma passing rate, 95%. Our average is 35, so above world average as well. And our mean IB diploma mean grade also higher this year. So very pleased with those results. We also started our new strategic plan. We're working on a strategic plan all of spring, last spring. And this is sort of a timeline of what happened and how it was done. Now we have a finalized strategic plan that we'll be sharing with our staff in the upcoming week, very soon. Our steering committee actually involved an alum. For the first time, we involved alumni in our strategic plan. We actually had Marina Hardy as one of our representatives from the alumni group who helped us with the new strategic plan. And we look forward to sharing that with all our community and our alumni and our external friends. And we did some additions to our vision and mission, and particular a value statement. So now we have balanced added to our value, our motto that we had before, right? So value, challenge, prepared, we also are going to have balance to it. And you'll see that coming up very soon. Next. This is our whole school goal for this year, to develop and embed initiatives and practices that positively impact the well-being of our community and the sustainability of our school. We, of course, want to work with well-being particularly after 18 months of this pandemic and everything of the impact that it has had in our staff and our teachers and our students and our parents and our community. And of course, we continue to work with sustainability and long-term growth for SIS. And of course, it's our Platinum Jubilee. Very exciting. Please share your memories. This is for you, Samir, and for all our alumni that are here tonight. Go to that website. That's also linked into our external website of the school, and share your memories of good memories you've had, the funny memories you've had, the hard memories too. And please share those with us, because we're going to be sharing those with our whole community throughout the year.
Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you.
So let's have a look and see if someone sent in any questions. If you want to send in questions to Marissa, please use the Slido link. Lori will post it in the chat for you. Let's see if someone... okay, so let's do this. Not yet.
So we can go ahead and start.
Exactly.
And then I can come back at the end if there's anything people want.
Exactly. So let's do that. So, Samir Fostock.
Ilham.
Yes. You are an SIS alum, a teenage parent, as we saw in the video.
Yes.
You are also a serial entrepreneur who have actively assisted in the formation of more than 15 companies, very impressive, in 3 different continents.
Correct.
Your professional career spans various industries. You have been in the biotech, defense, education, IT, media, and music industries. Is that correct?
Yeah, and probably a couple more.
And probably a couple more. You'll tell us about it. You held both operational and executive roles at industry leaders, as well as created and managed several successful startups of your own. Today, you are the head of diagnostics at Atana, a publicly traded Swedish biotech company. And I know a few people have checked you out to see some stock options. And you co-founded this in 2002. You also led it through a management buyout in 2014 and an IPO in 2018. We are very much looking forward to hearing more about all of this and dive into your journey and find out how have you moved between industries. You have closed deals with major companies. We are talking Apple, AstraZeneca, EF, all this while earning a platinum album and mentoring music artists, including critically acclaimed King Princess.
Yes.
I think that deserves like a round of applause. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak to us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So before we sat in this room, we actually had a quick tour around the building. How does it feel being back in this building?
It actually feels really good. I was surprised at how familiar everything felt. It was really, for me anyway, like stepping back in time. I remember the corridors, I remember the classrooms. Of course, a lot of teachers and friends come to mind. What I wasn't prepared for was my emotional reaction when we stepped into the auditorium, because that apparently holds a lot of fond memories for me. There are a lot of things happened in that auditorium, and it was a very emotional entrance into that room. So it feels good, actually. I like to get, these surprises when you don't know when they happen, and these emotions come. So feel alive. So that was very nice. Beautiful school. I'm happy to be here and very glad that so many people are here listening in. And I look forward to answering some questions and then questions from you guys as well.
Exactly. And all the questions, please post them to Slido. Okay. So you attended SIS, or as it was called ISS, in your time between 83 and 87. What is your fondest memory of the school?
All right. So I just realized now, after you presented the anniversary, that I was here right in the middle of it. So I was here at the 35th year of the school. My fondest memory, I was going to answer something else, but after stepping into the auditorium, I have to say it's going to be related to that. So I'll actually say the dances. The school dances that we used to have in that auditorium, and all the fun we had, and all of the mischief, I'm going to say that went on up there. That was something that hit me right now. So yes, the auditorium. But of course, then it's everything else. All my friends from here, people that have reached out to me since I decided to do this, which is of course fun to hear from old friends, and then all of the teachers, a lot of them which I have had contact with through the years. Some of them, unfortunately, that are no longer with us. Even our dear caretaker at the school, who was caretaker here for about 40 years, I believe, Mr. Svensson, who passed away a few years ago. So a lot of fond memories, and I'm very happy to be back.
Great. So I'm going to jump right in. You have a very entrepreneurial background. Tell us, where did your interest in business start?
Great question. I think for me, it has always been there. I have always been a very competitive person, whether it is sports or education, and that has just carried on into my life or in my career. I was never really interested in staying in one place, in one industry and doing that. So when I graduated from college, I see one of my college mates is on here, who I can talk more other things with on Thursday when we meet each other. But straight after college, essentially everyone that I went to school with, they moved to New York City. I was in DC at Georgetown. They all went up to New York. They started working for investment banks and they got into the various financial fields. I was really not interested in that and said, let me go to Saudi Arabia. That's where my father's family is from, and start working in Saudi because I want to do something different. So it's always been there. It's like just a drive to not settle and do what is expected of me. I've always been interested in going out and doing something completely different. Hello. That's a friendly face.
Yes, Miss Lidfeld.
Yes, who knows me very well.
We can't hear you. We'll chat in a minute.
Yeah, we'll chat in a minute.
Hi, Samir.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm great. And boy, was I surprised to see you here. It was wonderful. So I had to take time out to listen to that little boy who drove me bananas.
Great to see you.
Great to see you too. And I say congratulations to your great success. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I didn't quite believe the mischief talk until I heard Miss Lidfeld confirm it now.
Yeah.
But those are secrets that we keep between us, correct?
Yes, absolutely. I think that is best.
Yes, best.
I'll be contacting you, Carol, for a follow-up.
Okay.
All right. So you started Atana, which is a biotech tools company, and you did not have a background in biotech. What drove you to that industry?
Yeah. So for me, business, there are certain things which, like you say in Swedish, röd tråd. So something, I don't know, what's the expression in English?
There's basically a red thread going.
Yeah.
Just like you see something.
So for me, doing business, there's something universal about doing it. It doesn't really matter what industry you're in. I have a way that I like to conduct business, and the industry itself is not really that important. And I've always felt that it's extremely important when you enter into an industry to take your experiences with you, because many times, even though I'm not a biochemist or I'm not an engineer, a lot of the discussions that we had in the beginning with Atana when we started developing our proprietary system, I actually had a lot of input into the technical development because I would ask the questions that other people wouldn't.
Exactly.
Why do we have to do it like this? Couldn't we do like that instead? And I think sometimes when you're into a field, you become almost blinded and you have these blinders on for, oh, this is the way we've always done it. And this is the logical way of doing this. Whereas when you come from the outside, you can start asking these questions if you've conditioned yourself to ask them. So it doesn't matter. It happened to be biotech. It was just a pure coincidence. It was through a friend. They asked me, could you help us with the business aspects? And I came in and we started the company. I said, yeah, sure, we can make a business out of this. And we did. And now we're almost 20 years later. So it's been a business for quite some time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And my follow-up question to that is what we discussed before, that you led through a management buyout and an IPO. And if you can please explain to that for those who don't know what that means.
Yes. So initially, when we started Atana, we were like most startups. We went out into the capital markets and we got investors to come in, private investors. We were very fortunate to get interest from some very big investors here in Sweden. I don't know if you're familiar with, but one of our main investors was Carl Bennett, who is one of the premier investors within the healthcare industry in Sweden as a private investor. So he came in, then we had a big foundation called Östersjöstiftelsen, which is part of Högskolan i Huddinge, vad heter det? Södertörn högskola. And then we also had Catella, which is part of the Ikano or IKEA, Inter-IKEA group that came in and invested as well. So they were our main investors and they backed us for quite some time. What happened then was a bit unfortunate, but the financial crisis hit. We had just signed a big deal with a Swiss company that was going to market and sell our products across the world. When the crisis hit, they decided, no, we're just going to be selling the things that we have developed ourselves. We sort of got stuck in between and nothing happened with our products. And we had gone from selling ourselves to getting rid of our whole sales force and marketing team. And now we needed money again. And the investors said, sorry, but it's not working out. So me and one of the founders, we said, okay, but then we will buy out the company, all the patents and everything, which we did. And we decided to basically restart the company. We decided to focus on research services rather than selling the instruments because it's a very long sales process and very expensive. Capital intensive. And then by providing services instead and focusing on that, we were actually able to rebuild the business and make sure that we had, a steady flow of cash flow, money coming in to continue then to invest into the R&D of our system.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, long story.
No, but it's, I think it's really interesting to hear that some things don't always go this way.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go this way.
Yeah.
And, it's not.
Sometimes they go that way.
Sometimes they go that way. And what do you do then?
Exactly. And that's, I think, the key, right? Because, in one sense, I don't like when, you wrote, successful entrepreneur. We could have a 30-minute discussion about what success is. I don't see myself as successful because I never really sit down and gauge, am I successful? I'm successful in the way that, yes, I've always managed to do what I want to do and what I enjoy doing. And that to me is success. That I am able to do what I love doing. I'm happy with that. The rest, other people can judge. But absolutely, I would say, the biggest thing with being an entrepreneur is accepting failure, right? Because failure is an inevitable part of doing business. You're not going to get every contract. You're not going to close every deal. You're not always going to have successful development projects. So understanding how the failures that you encounter and how you pivot from that and how you bounce back, that is usually what, makes a so-called successful entrepreneur successful because they're able to just put that behind them and move ahead. And to be honest, part of that is the fact that we're in Sweden. So a lot of the companies I started here in Sweden, we are very blessed to be in a country where basically anyone can take the risk of being an entrepreneur because it is a huge risk. And here there is at least some sort of safety net. So if you fail, you can still be okay, which is a nice thing. But of course, the situation is not like that in other places. In the United States, very different. In Saudi Arabia, where I've started other companies, very different as well. So, that risk, how you look at risk and how you approach it is, of course, a very important part of being an entrepreneur.
And I was just going to ask, speaking of risk, I think as a business, as an entrepreneur, you have to be you can't be risk averse. You have to be.
Yeah, in a way, you're right. However, when I look at myself, I would say that I wouldn't say I'm risk averse, but I am quite careful I manage risk in a different way. But when I look at myself from the outside, then I would say, I would say, yeah, you're definitely not afraid of taking risks. But it's done in a very, I would say, methodical way that I have developed, I guess, some sense of, when is it right to take the risk and when is not the right time to take a risk. It's a bit difficult to quantify, but it's just there. And I think it's something like other talents that you may have. Sometimes certain things are easier than others for people. So risk is just a part of the equation for me.
Fantastic. So while at Atana,
yes,
you invested in Songbox.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of us who didn't know what Songbox is, it's actually, it was exactly. You invested in Songbox and you created something called the Metro Music Challenge with Apple and Metro Magazine.
Yes.
So these are two, of course, very different industries.
Mm-hmm.
What are the upsides or downsides, if any, of moving between industries? You touched a bit on this before.
Yeah. So again, basically pure coincidence that I moved from biotech into that. But as I explained, what had happened at Atana was that when we were there, financial crisis, I was one of the founders at Atana, but we had gotten to a stage. So we founded the company in 2002. I was initially chairman, and then I started working in the company. And by 2008, when we had this big deal with a Swiss company, I was not needed at Atana anymore. We had so many people working in sales and marketing and development and application specialists and so on. So I had basically employed my own usefulness out of the company. And then I went to my founding partners and I said, listen, I'm not going to sit here just to have a salary. That's not the purpose of me. And now that we have this deal with the Swiss company, they can do that much better than I can. So I'll do something else. And I left. I still had my ownership in the company, of course, but I left as an employee. And Songbox was, again, a coincidence. I have a friend who happens to be one of the best producers. I don't know if you guys are aware of Cheiron and that music studio in Stockholm. But the Cheiron studio was a very big thing. There's been made a lot of movies and Netflix documentaries about this place. But that's where a guy called Dennis Pop started something very special. And people like Max Martin, if you've heard that name, as a music producer was, and my friend Jake, who wrote the song Bye Bye Bye, if you remember that, by NSYNC.
Okay, yes.
So my friend Jake, anyway, that was at Kungsholmens Gymnasium with me. We were friends actually before that, said, I've invested in this company. The guy there that's working with it doesn't really know what's going on. Can you please come and help me? And I said, well, I just left Atana, and why not? Let's do it. So I jumped in, and I don't know, maybe Miss Lidfeld will remember, or maybe not, but I was actually a rapper back in the day.
We're gonna have to see this.
So this was back in 1985. I actually had a concert at a place called Koolingsborg, which is in Slussen.
Yes, I remember Koolingsborg.
Yeah, for like 700 people. So it was quite big. So I was very big into the rap community at the time, which was before rap was even a thing in Sweden, especially.
You brought it to Sweden.
No, but I was one of the founding members, if we put it that way.
So that was really true. That was really true, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I decided to jump into Songbox, and one of the first things I identified was that, okay, if we were essentially a bridge between unsigned artists and the music industry. So at that time, this was when file sharing was, this is like 2006, 2007, around that time. So I said, okay, well, we need to create a splash. We need to get out there. We need to make a name for ourselves. And who better to create a name with than if you team up with somebody like Apple, because everyone knows Apple products, and they had just released the iPhone. I think they were on version 2. They were very much interested in getting into the music community because they had a lot of software for producers and songwriters and things like that. So for them, it was a perfect fit. And then we needed a media partner, of course. And then We actually spoke to TV3 because they were quite interested in doing something. We did not want to do an idol kind of thing because we felt that was very fake. You're singing other people's music. This was to highlight artists that are making their own music.
Okay.
So we teamed up with Metro newspaper, and we actually offered an advertising campaign to the winner of the competition that was worth 3.5 million krona. So it was a pretty substantial amount of marketing. And we had some very good artists that came through there, people that are actually still on the radio. So it was a lot of fun. And yeah, it was, growing. We actually, one of the worst decisions I ever made was due to that, because I had a meeting with Daniel Ek at Spotify, if you know who Daniel is, in 2007, because we proposed to them that we were going to basically manage an unsigned version where artists could, that without being signed to a label, they could put their music onto Spotify. So this was, of course, very early days of Spotify. Daniel really liked the idea. He said, this is great. We had around 10,000 songs on our songbox. So it was like perfect. And he's like, well, great. We don't have to pay for this and we don't have to go through that. But of course, the board of directors at Spotify, they didn't think that was so great because all of those people were the people from the music industry representing the labels. So they're like, no, let's not do this. And I essentially, I didn't tell Daniel this, but I told Jake that, I don't think this thing is going to work with Spotify. I don't see how this business model is going to work. They're not going to be able to make money and it's going to be super expensive. In one way, I'm right, because they're still losing money.
Exactly.
However, Daniel's done pretty well for himself. So good job. And if any of you work with Spotify, I have nothing but good things for Spotify. So yeah.
Wow, that was amazing. And also, you kept the foot in the music industry.
Yes.
Exactly. You became a mentor for King Princess. How did that come about? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so again, coincidence, which you'll see is a running theme in my life. We spend the summers with a family up in upstate New York in Saratoga. My wife had been into this small little town and gone into the only store where she could buy clothes that were a bit edgy and interesting. And she met with the owner of the store, and they built a friendship, and she came over to our house for a barbecue. And first time I met her, she asked me, what am I doing? I said, I work a bit in the music industry and I do this. Oh, you have to hear my daughter. She's amazing. And I think I've heard that about 100 times, and I always try to get out of it, because there's nothing worse than having to say that I'm sorry, but I don't think this is very good. Which I actually do, because I don't like to give people some false hope of, this could actually be something. But a couple of days later, her daughter, Michaela, came over to the house. I think she was 12 or 13 at that time. And she sat down with an acoustic guitar, played a song. And I'm like, I don't recognize the song. What is this? And she said, well, I wrote it myself. And I was, blown away. And I said, listen, I don't say this very often, but you are a superstar. And they got all excited and they said, okay, how are we going to do this? And I actually spoke to Max Martin, and he said, I'm not going to get involved because this is after he did Britney Spears and that whole thing. And given what had happened to Britney, he said, I'm not going to be working with any young artists anymore. I'm just done with it. So I'm not interested. But I basically helped to mentor her through everything, and I helped her to make good choices rather than bad choices. She came here to Sweden. There's this annual music award called the Dennis Pop Awards that's held every year. I brought her along. I introduced her to all the people, the people that I think are good people. She wrote a couple of songs here in Stockholm, one which actually has like 50 million streams on Spotify. So yeah, it was just, and now I'm a bit of a sounding board. She'll call me, her mom calls me, they ask me for my input on certain things, and I'm happy to help out. I've not made any money, I've not lost any money, but it's a friend and it will always be a friend, a close, dear friend, and she's a fantastic artist. So if you haven't heard her, check out King Princess.
You know what? I actually did after we spoke the first time, and I recognized the song.
Yeah, 1950. Yeah,
exactly. I didn't know it was her.
No, I know, but that's the thing. So unfortunately, she came out right before the pandemic. She was going to be in Stockholm, I think 2020. She was actually going to tour with Harry Styles.
Oh.
So she was going to be playing at Globen, but that whole concert was canceled, of course. She's coming again in the spring now, I think, but with someone else, another big artist. She'll be like
They had the intro.
Yeah, the intro band, exactly. But that song 1950, which is about she has come out as openly gay, and that song is about that, how she came out essentially. But that has like 500 million streams, so pretty good first song to come out. Yeah,
it's amazing. Well, thank you for mentoring her and bringing her to us. We really appreciate it. So I'm going to jump back to your studies at SIS, and because you were here, you did the MIP and then you did the IB. How do you think they prepared you for your future academic endeavors at Georgetown, which is, as we know, a top-level university?
Yeah, so I mean, at that time, ISS, of course, was a bit different than the way it's structured today. The good thing with ISS, well, I see my education as basically being 3 steps. So grade school, high school, and then university. ISS did a fantastic job in preparing us for the IB. We were well prepared. I wouldn't go so far as to say we were mature, because we weren't that mature, but it prepared us for what, made us prepared for the IB experience. And at that time, it was a big step, of course, to come from this school, which, you felt very protected here. You were in the school, you're out in the schoolyard, and, it was very much at the end of school, okay, when we were in 9th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, we could take the subway home. But before then, parents came and picked you up. It was skyddad verkstad, as we say in Swedish. And then, of course, when we made that transition to IB, and for me, Kungsholmen, then it was like, free reins. Hey, now we can do whatever we want, and so on.
Rap.
Yeah, you can rap on the weekends if you want to do that. But Kungsholmen, then it was IB. And I have to say that when I started at Georgetown, I actually did not start there as a freshman. I came as a transfer student in my second year, so my sophomore year. But when I came to Georgetown, and even when I came to the States and started studying at the university, I felt like I was light years ahead of the students at that time. I knew how to study. I knew basically, I got a lot of credits to start with just from my IB studies, but I was just at a completely different mental phase academically. I knew how to work in groups. I knew what was expected of me in terms of finding sources and doing my research. I was prepared for taking a big exam at the end of the semester or at the end of the year. So all of these things were, to me, second nature. I'd already learned that whole how to manage my time, what is important, what's not important, and where to lay my focus. So I would say that ISS was a part of that progression, right? From being a student, and even at that time, it was a lot more, let's open a book to this page and let's read. Whereas here we were already, at ISS, we were challenged to think and to, question things and to understand, why are things in a certain way, or go home and think about this, which I think is very different from, at that time anyway, the way the American or especially the British, which is completely different. The British system is set up. So I'm very thankful to everyone, and Mrs. Lidfeld, you were definitely a part of that. So thank you.
We're seeing. we've spoken about how you're a very driven individual, and where do you get to drive from?
I think, like I said from the beginning, it's just been there for me. I mean, I've always been driven, whether it is to succeed in as a rapper or playing basketball or in my studies. It's just there. I have a competitive nature, and that, of course, when you combine that or focus and put it into something, then you want to succeed in that. So, you know, when I go in to do something, I go all in to do it. I don't do something, you know, dabble a little bit in this, and which is a bit strange, because when you look at my background, you'll think like, oh, this guy is not serious. He's doing all of these different things. No. When I do something, I focus and I do it. And then when I'm done with that, I can move on and do something else. Sometimes things overlap a little bit, but it's done with an understanding of now I am overlapping. So now I'll focus a bit on that to prepare myself for the next step.
Excellent. I want to talk a little bit about the student body here at SIS, or ISS, as you keep referring to it, which is wrong. No, it's called SIS now.
Yep.
How did that affect you? What did you think of that?
I mean, for me, I think today it has become so evident that what we were doing back in the day, and we're talking now 1987, the fact that we were exposed to all of these different nationalities and cultures and, you know, ways of thinking and languages, and to have that influence, of course, that has influenced me and my ability to move around the world. I don't see how you cannot be affected by that. So for me, I ended up going to the States and studying at college. I felt at home in the US. Then I went down to Saudi Arabia. You know, okay, sure, my family is Saudi or Middle Eastern, but I wouldn't say I felt like super at home in Saudi, but I didn't feel foreign. You know, I didn't feel like a foreigner. I can interact with people, and I think it's hugely important. And even my kids today, they go to, you know, the Dubai American School, and they have, I think, 94 nationalities at that school. And that's one of the most important things that I feel that they're getting out of school, just being able to interact, because today there is no way that you are going to be out moving around in the world if you do not know how to interact with different cultures and different nationalities and ways of thinking. And I mean, it's essential. You cannot isolate yourself anymore. It's impossible. I just think it would be foolish to try. So that's a fantastic thing which all of you guys are giving your children or the students, depending on from where you're sitting. But yeah, that's absolutely the biggest thing.
Thank you. I'm not a teacher, but okay. So speaking a bit about the future, what are your future goals? What do you see in your future?
Wow, I see my 50th birthday coming up very soon. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't really set like long-term plans. I have these, you know, short-term things which I want to accomplish. You know, I have some time now with Atana, which I rejoined at the beginning of this year to accomplish certain things. I don't want to go into too many details about that because I cannot speak about them since we're a publicly traded company. But yes, I have my goals right now are very oriented, if we're talking business.
Yes.
Yeah. Very much oriented towards what I am doing and focused on right now, which is Atana. And then longer term, you know, we'll see. I'm sure there will be some coincidence along the way, and that may lead me on another path.
And we look forward to hear from that as well. So we talked about the future. Now I want to look back. What do you feel are the defining moments in your life?
Wow, defining moments. I would say leaving home and going to study at college, pretty big step. 2, touching down in Saudi Arabia and really leaving the world behind me. It sort of felt like that in 1995. Before the internet, communication was not really what it is today. Today, it's completely different, of course. But it was really like stepping back in time. That was a big step. You know, and then my children. You know, those are the defining moments. Work and business, not really a part of that, to be honest. I mean, it's business is fun, and yeah, I love it and I enjoy it, but is it something which defines me as a person? No, not really. No, there are other things are much more important than that.
Your most important role as a father.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's a role which I enjoy. I love being a father, and yes, I take it seriously. Absolutely, I'm a very present father.
And I could tell. We prepared, obviously, we spoke, but you don't know this. I found this is a school catalog.
Oh, wow.
My final question, for my final question.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Am I going to need my glasses for this?
Yeah, get your glasses.
Yeah,
Who do you see?
I see myself.
Exactly. So anyone else, do you see Samir?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I'm going to go closer. What about now? That's it?
He had curlier hair then.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so what would you say to the young Samir and all of our young students out there? You know, what's your best advice?
Oof. That is a very good question. My best advice is to listen to your parents. Yes, you should. I shouldn't say no, but that's not the most important advice. I would say whatever you do in life, do it really well, do it wholeheartedly. When you put your heart into something, the worst thing that can happen is that you discover that, okay, this maybe wasn't the right thing or it didn't work out as I expected, but it's fine because you were invested into it. Don't be afraid to invest. And most importantly, never be afraid to fail. Failure should always teach you something. I have failed many, many times in many, many ways, in many, many different types of activities or business, whether it's business or sports or friendships or even relationships. The most important thing with a failure is that you take something with it. You learn from it and you grow from it. If you never fail, it means essentially you haven't really tried. And as an entrepreneur, or if you're inventing things, failure is just a part of that process. So, and I actually wrote, and we discussed this, I mean, I wrote something on LinkedIn for those people who are on there. It's called Forget Fearing Failure. It's just a short little, it's just some ideas that I have. That would be my main thing. Don't be afraid. It's okay. You can fail on a test. I have done that, but you know what? I learned from it. And the next time around, I didn't fail. I got a very good grade. One of the things here, I don't know if you did the math, but for example, I started at ISS or SIS in 83. I graduated in 87, but I started in 5th grade. I actually never went to 7th grade.
I couldn't find you in the catalog.
You see?
I was like, okay, something is going on. Was he sick? Why was it, you know?
No, so I went, because I started school here in Sweden when I was 7. And then when I went to the States, I didn't speak any English. And I went to 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade in the States. And then my parents thought, okay, well, we're not going to put him in 3rd grade with the same age as he should be because he doesn't speak any English. So it was better for me just to continue 2nd grade. And then when I came back here to Sweden, it was of course 5th grade, but I was as old as the 6th graders because here we were doing the American way, right? So I always felt like I'm a year behind. And at the beginning of 6th grade, I asked my mom, you know, do you think that I could maybe just skip and be with the 7th graders instead? So we went and talked to, at that time, it was Mrs. McNamara. And she said, well, you know, now the year is just starting. We can't just place him in a year above. But I tell you what, if Samir does well in 6th grade, then he can skip and go to 8th grade. So what did I do? Being who I am, I got straight A's and I skipped 7th grade and went into 8th grade. And in 8th grade, but to be honest, I think this was actually the teachers that decided we're not going to give Samir that good grades because we don't want to show that you can just skip a grade and then have straight A's. So my grades actually dropped a little bit in eighth grade, but I graduated essentially with all A's again. So I think I had like a 4.8 Swedish. So
Amazing.
I had a maybe one B plus or something, or a B maybe. I don't know. I can't remember. So yeah, I mean, again, right? That's when the competitive nature, when I want something, I go for it. So I think for me, it was very positive. Now, my oldest son, who is 14, he asked me, because he knows the story. He said, Dad, and he's born on September 14th. So he was just at the borderline there. And he's actually now a year younger than a lot of the students, not all of them, but a lot of them. And he said, Dad, do you think I can skip seventh grade? And this was a few years ago. And I just said, no, you cannot skip seventh.
Seventh grade is important.
Yeah, super important. So kids, if you're listening, don't skip seventh grade. It's a great year. I've heard it's a great year.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Let's see if you have any questions. Yes, round of applause, round of applause. Carol.
Can I ask?
Yes, go ahead, Carol.
Samir, I don't know if you remember when we started school in the fall, every August, we all met in the auditorium, and the upper school, and Mr. David Taylor was on stage, and all the students got to tell where they came from. I don't know if you remember that, but we had a big map on the stage, and everybody in the auditorium could raise their hand and say where they came from. And then the teacher put a pin on every person's home country.
Yes.
And the student body, as you talked about, were very proud that we always had at least 54 countries represented every August. And when you said Saudi Arabia, nobody believed you.
Yeah.
Because you didn't look like an Arab. Swedish boy, a short little Swedish boy with curly hair. But that goes along with your philosophy or your feelings about the student body, how going through school with this group of people from all over the world actually, I think, gave you a lot too, as you developed into this fantastic person.
Absolutely.
So that was a tradition that I was involved in from 1972, where we always started the day of school with saying how many countries were represented and where everybody came from. I thought it was very nice. I was glad to be part of that too.
Yeah, no, I do remember that, and I even believe that I had a couple of options there for countries.
Yeah, you did.
but I picked the one that no one else had said. I'm like, hey, I'll go with this one now. But yeah,
Well,
I mean, my background is very. I met your new receptionist, and she told me she was from Turkey. And I said, wow, I wouldn't have expected that. And she said, well, why? Why not? And I said, well, no, I just figured you looked a bit, I would almost have guessed a bit more south, like towards Lebanon. And she goes, oh, no, in Turkey, we're a very diverse ethnicities in Turkey. And I said, yeah, I know, I'm 12% Turkish. And she was like, what, you're 12% Turkish? I said, yeah, my grandfather on my father's side, he was actually half Turkish. And he used to wear a fez even.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I have partly Turkish blood in me. And my kids, they know the math. They know the 6%, and there's a lot of mix. So I'm actually Turkish, Lebanese, Italian, 6% Italian. But that's the way the world has always looked, right? In the Middle East is sort of a melting pot of all of these different ethnicities. And I will tell some people when they say, oh, we're Palestinian. Oh, yeah, I'm Palestinian too. Because that's where, where the family originated from, was originally from Palestine. But then after the Ottoman Empire fell, people were forced out of Turkey down into what today is Syria. But at that time it was Palestine, and then Lebanon, and then from Lebanon to Saudi Arabia. So take your pick. I look nothing like I'm from Saudi, and every single time people ask me in Dubai, where I am now, you have to show your ID for essentially anything you need to do. I take up my ID and they look at it and they said, but where's your ID? And I said, this is my ID, and I can actually show you. I have it here. It's a bit funny. This one you probably see best, my picture.
Oh, wow.
So when so I have to wear, by law, even on my Dubai ID, I have to wear my Saudi national dress by law. And of course, I always say, well, you know, they tell me you don't look Saudi, and I answer them by saying Alhamdulillah, which means thank God that I don't look Saudi, and then they start laughing. So that's a good icebreaker there.
Speaking of icebreakers, we have questions have been popping into Slido. So the first one, given your very professional background, what would you say has been your greatest asset or skill that has helped you work within all these sectors?
Yeah, so for me, I would say the sector is not really the big thing. And I think we started the discussion around that. For me, my contribution has mostly been based around business development. So business development is essentially how do you convey your philosophy, your products to customers, what your company stands for, and what your vision and mission and ideas, where they're leading to. So it's very much a social interaction. And that is something which I feel very comfortable with. I don't have a problem talking to people and communicating with people and understanding what their needs are and how we potentially can fit into that and contribute to their success. And then it doesn't really matter what industry you're working with. I mean, it could be, you know, that some guy is, actually, I met someone in Dubai a couple of days ago who has developed a new miniature insulin, not a pen, it's more like an insulin a needle for diabetic patients. So it's more a thing to keep in your pocket and to carry around. You have 3 small things. And I met him through a contact, and he said, well, you know, I want to do this, and this is something you could help me with. So, hey, man, who knows, you know, maybe that's something for the future. So it doesn't really matter if it's, you know, selling something like that or developing that into a business. It's something I enjoy doing, and the industry is really irrelevant, to be honest. Yeah.
Great. So you speaking of new ideas, how do you decide whether a business idea is worth investing in?
Yes. So the first thing I do is that I look at the people involved in the business. Who are they? What are their motivations? What is their plan? So that's, to me, always the most important thing. You can have the best idea in the world. If you don't have the people to execute it, it's worthless. It doesn't mean anything. So people is number one. Number two is I look at, okay, what do you actually want to accomplish? Do I believe that you can accomplish what you say that you want to accomplish? Can I add something to that? So typically I just don't go in with money. I've done it a few times. I like to get involved in things. I like to see something where I can add value. And if I feel like I can contribute something, then I will also contribute my money and my time and resources and network into that project.
Amazing. Next question. How do you manage to find a work-life balance while running all your different companies? Yeah, so to be honest, I haven't been very good at that in the past. I would say in the past 4 or 5 years, I've gotten significantly better at it. But yeah, it's a challenge, right? It definitely is. And I can say it's something I've struggled with in the past. I have failed with it. I've always been present. Like I said, I'm a very present father. But of course, certain times of high stress or a lot of pressure, you know, you're not really great at balancing things all the time. But again, I've learned how to be better at communicating that and to telling people in my surrounding, look, you know, I'm really preoccupied with this. I have to figure this out. We can discuss that later, or please give me some time. So it's something which I work with. I can still get better with it, absolutely. But I think, yeah, it's an important thing and something which I think about. So I think that's a good thing to at least have in the back of your mind. Maybe that should be one of your future goals, to find more balance.
Very, very good.
Exactly. Yeah. So what are your success habits?
Yeah. Good question. I think, again, like I said, for me, it's a question of being competitive. So I have a competitive nature, and I feel that if I can compete with something, if I can add value to something, then I will do whatever I can to do that. So I don't know if it's a habit per se, but that has helped me to be successful. So maybe not the best answer to that question, but
I think it goes along
in a
with what
way,
you said.
yeah, I'm not like a big believer in, oh, I have to wake up at a certain time, I have to do something. I'm not very, structured with schedules or something. There's not like one particular thing that I do. It's more of an overall
It's part of your
general
personality.
thing. Yeah, just the way that I am, I guess.
Exactly. So being an entrepreneur, how do you balance being realistic about your business versus being optimistic about it?
Oh, great question. Yeah, that's a very tough thing to do, because when I go into something, I go all in. Like I said, put your heart into it. I invest not only money, but I also invest my time and my mental capacity into something. And of course, you're optimistic, but you have to be realistic as well. I learn all the time. One of my best friends in Dubai now, sometimes I'll say, yeah, but if we can close this deal, then it's all, then it's all gravy. And he always looks at me and he says, it's not if, it's when. So you have to start thinking when you do something, not if you're going to do something. And then I say, yeah, Amir, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I have to change that mindset. So I guess I have a bit of Swedish in me naturally, which sort of grounds me in a way, because I don't tend to run away and get wild. Americans, for example, they have this big tendency to flash and show, and we're the greatest, we're the best. Not really my style. I tend to understate, which is the very like Swedish, let's be a bit careful, and yeah, we're good, but we're not great. So I think I'm pretty balanced in that sense, that I do see that, what is this really? But of course, sometimes you get carried away and you think, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. And then, is it though? Is it really the greatest thing ever? Or can there be something else that's better? And I think it's just important to ask yourself something, but it's a great question. It's something which you have to think about, obviously. Yeah, very important. Great
answer. And next one, how difficult was it getting investors to invest in Atana? Guarantees for a pitch deck, someone trying to start a business.
Was it difficult? Getting money or funding for any company is difficult. When you're creating, especially when you're creating something which doesn't have, it's a very niche product for a specific market, but something that you truly believe will add value. The reason it wasn't difficult to start it, to get the first money, the first couple of million krona, not that difficult. No, I'm sorry, I don't want to sound pretentious here, but yeah, that amount of money, so a couple of $100,000 to start something, that will typically be based upon how you are as a person, right? So do the people in your surrounding, friends and family, do they trust you? Do they believe that, you can I put money into it myself, and of course my time. That wasn't that hard, to be honest. But after about a year and a half, when we did our first, what I would call the Series A, or as you would call the Series A round, we took in, I'm going to be correct now, it was almost 50 million krona, which of course is a slightly different size of investment. But that's when I actually met Carl Bennett for the first time. And we sat, interesting little anecdote, I'll keep it short, but we were sitting down on Kungsgatan at a big consultancy. There was a table of about 25 people all on one side, which was all of the consultants, and then Carl Bennett, the investor. And then my partner Theodore and I were sitting on the other side of the table. So you can imagine just the setting of this. And we had our presentation, and it was now time for them to start asking us questions about this. And before anyone, because all the 25 consultants were sitting looking at Carl to see what is Carl going to say, because of course he's the one that pays all of the bills. So they were looking at him, and he just said, you know what? I have not understood anything what you have said, but I think you guys are great. So let's invest. And everyone said, yeah, great idea, great idea. And then he said, but for me to put in money, I also want Östersjöstiftelsen to come in, and their review board will do a full due diligence on this. So if they go in, you have my money. And they went in. So yeah, it was tough. But in terms of pitch deck, it would be way too long of a discussion to have to give tips. However, I think Ilham can share my details, and I'm happy to help or give you guys some tips. If you want to send me an email, I'm happy to do that as well.
We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have two more questions. It's 7 o'clock, but I want to take them. Okay, you mentioned that you manage risk in a different way. How does your thought process work in different risky, high versus low risk / reward situations?
It's hard for me to say, I don't think there is, I don't think I've actually thought about how I do it. It is just gut. It's a gut feeling. Like, I can feel like this feels good. This does not feel good. Oh, that doesn't feel like the right thing to do right now. So, is there a big elaborate process? No. I mean, sometimes, yeah, you put pen to paper and you look at this and you look, okay, how big is the investment? What are we going to do? What do we want to accomplish? Do we need more money? And of course, everyone will tell you it's always going to take a longer time. It's always going to cost more money than you think. And I'll tell you, 9 times out of 10, you're absolutely right. It will take either longer time or cost more money or both. So even the best assessments will probably always be wrong. Do I feel this is the right thing to do? Do I feel okay with taking this risk? If the answer is yes, then I will do it.
Yeah. Last question. What has taken you to Dubai, and why did you decide for your children to attend the Dubai American School? I think I know the answer, but go ahead.
Yes. So what took me to Dubai was actually my wife, who is Swedish, from Karlstad. We were in Saudi Arabia. So I was in Saudi 95 to 2000. Then we came to Sweden. I met my wife here. We had children. And then by pure coincidence, I have a friend who was working with Bertil Hult, who is the founder of EF Education. They were having some issues down in Saudi Arabia. They asked me if I could help them out. I was at the end of Songbox and after Atana, and I said, well, I definitely know Saudi Arabia has huge issues with their English language education. Let me see what I can do. So I started traveling back and forth to Saudi in 2009. And after a couple of longer trips, my wife, we had our second child and he was quite young. She said, instead of you going back and forth, why don't we just all go to Saudi? And I said, really? Would you want to go? She goes, hell yeah, let's go. So I said, all right, great. So we moved down to Riyadh, and after we said, or I actually told her, I said, well, let's start with 1 year. We'll see what happens. Nothing lasts forever except our marriage. So we'll do 1 year and then we'll see what happens. 1 year became 2, became 6. And after the 6th year, or after the 5th year, she said, this is the last year. I'm not going to stay here anymore. I need to get out and see something else. And I completely understood and appreciated that. So I said, okay, well, you guys move to Dubai, and then I'll start initially to commute a bit because I still had work in Saudi. So I started doing the shuttle. I was in Saudi 4 days a week, Dubai 3 days a week. And then the pandemic, of course, put a stop to all of that, which I am super grateful for. So that's the reason why we are in Dubai. Because of the close proximity to Saudi. I don't know how much longer we will be there. It's a great place to live, fantastic city, a lot of fun, fantastic infrastructure, safe. They have handled this pandemic, in my view, very, very well. It's, I think, a very good place for the kids to grow up. Why we picked the American Academy, because I want to give my children, I'm very happy with the educational background that I have, and I want to give them the same opportunity. So I felt it was important for them to not be in a British system, which would have been sort of the alternative for us. I just felt like that is archaic and that is not what I want my kids to do. So I wanted to give them the American system. If you ask them where they're from, they're going to say we're Americans. So if you ask them, that's the answer you'll get. Although they're not 0% American, I'll tell you that much. But yeah,
state of mind.
it is a state of mind, yeah, which is good. You know, whatever rocks your boat. You know, I'm fine with that.
Fantastic. It's been amazing speaking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And
Thank you very
so
much.
lovely to have you here at the school.
Lovely to be here.
It's wonderful.
Thank you
And
for the invitation. And thank
Can
you
I
for
say
listening in.
something? Can I say something to Samir before we shut off? Samir, you were always very optimistic at school. You didn't know English very well, and you just came every day to school with a new idea, a new thought, a new optimism. It was fantastic. And I never forget the day you came in with a gray, sparkly shirt with a bow tie and lots of sparkles on the shirt. And evidently that was one of your stage
rapper.
shirts. I don't know if you remember that, but I sure do. And then we thought, boy, that guy's going to go good. And one of the teachers who you will remember was Mr. Clark.
Yeah.
And he said nothing stopping Samir. And I just want to say congratulations to you. You did so well and you deserve it very well. And I'm happy to see that a former student of mine has taken the world by a whirlwind. That's great.
Thank you so much. And it was great to see you as well.
Great to see you and good luck with everything. Okay.
Thank you so much. You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you everyone who joined. And I will be sending out a video of this recording and with Samir's details and also the link to the 70th Memories platform, because as Marissa said, we are celebrating 70. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And
Thank
we
you,
wish you
Samir.
all-
Really appreciate it. I was just wanted to say thank you, Samir. It was lovely to hear you and very inspiring. And that's why we're here every day at school, right? Working with our students to have.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Like we grow and.
Thank you for having me and
Thank
best of
you.
luck to all of you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.